Advocate Fungai Chimwamurombe. He's a seasoned lawyer and expert and dynamic leader whose influence spawns law, governance, entrepreneurship, and media. He's the senior partner at Chimwamurombe Legal Practitioner, specializing in commercial advisory, estate planning, and litigation. He sits on multiple boards, including Zamfi, AB Communications, and Zambuko Microfinance Trust. He is also the mayor of Nyanga and the chairperson of the Association of Rural District Councils. So he holds so many titles, and we're very honored to have him today. Today, we are talking about estate planning. Estate planning is one of those topics we often push aside until it's too late. But whether you have a car, a house, farm, or just a few cattle, the law is already decided what happens to your property when you die, unless you decide for yourself. And that's why we're here to present you, the listener, with your options. Do you protect your estate with a will, or do you further and go ahead and create a trust? To help us explore this, I'll be arguing the case for wills, simple, accessible, and rooted in our traditions. Opposite me, making the case for trusts, is none other than Advocate Fungai Chimwamurombe. He's saying, what are these things? So, Mr. Chimwa, I'll let you go first on describing what trusts are.
Thank you very much, Rumbi. I'm happy to be here. Well, a trust is an instrument which is created by a founder, appointing individuals who are called trustees to manage the estates or to manage properties on behalf of beneficiaries. So in a legal sense, that's what a trust is. So the fundamentals are that we should have a founder who chooses trustees. Trustees are, in the commercial world, the people like directors. But the difference between them with the directors is that trustees are only doing a fiduciary duty, which is to protect and to use and control things on behalf of the beneficiaries. So the third creature in this instance are the beneficiaries, who are supposed to benefit from the operations or the trading or any administrative functions by the trustees. Okay.
So that's a very unique sort of approach to, estate planning versus wills. So wills are, a legal document where a person spells out how they want their property to be distributed after death. So it can also deal with guardianship of children and funeral wishes. So wills are governed by the Wills Act of Zimbabwe, and as long as you're over 16 and of sound mind and follow the formalities, you are able to have a will. So the purpose is to just give you a voice after death. Very simply, you can just write it down and then it is done. So for the requirements, I'll start. So a will has to be in writing, and it's very simple. It's just you have to write down what you say, but it has to be clear. What you write has to be clear so that there's no confusion, because this then opens room for it to be contested if it is, difficult to interpret. So more advice would be that your will put your full name, the one that appears on your birth certificate, and so that it's not a question of whose will this is. And then you must sign this will, and it should also be attested to by two witnesses who will sign in the presence of the testator. So the testator is you, the person who is writing this will. So there should also be a marking. So this could be initialing on every page of the will. So if there's no marking on every page by the witnesses and the testator, this then means that there's a possibility that this will be invalidated. And if it's invalidated, it will be difficult for people who are executing your will to execute it, as someone might then come and contest it. You can go ahead. So what are the requirements of a trust?
The requirements of a trust. But maybe I see that you have demonstrated knowledge in terms of how it's to be done. But maybe just a rider which I would want to put to the listeners, that it's a very important document, as you have listed, outlined the requirements, and it's always advisable that they must take legal opinion before they start to do it.
Absolutely.
You have got $1 million estate, and you do a mistake, and it will cost a fortune. So you may want to just get some legal advice or approach people. Well, depending on the value of your estate, but largely you need attorneys to assist you. Wow, requirements of a trust now. A trust, like I even indicated, there is a founder, trustees, and the beneficiaries. So the general requirements are that you need to have a notary, who is a lawyer, who is a notary public, who is able to notarize that document. So you need to, unlike the will, which you can do in your own home, you have to visit a notary public to have the trust deed notarized. That's the first requirement. The second requirement, you need at least 2 up to 20 trustees. You can choose. You may have 2 or 3. So you need those trustees, who should be majors, people who are above the age of 18. And in most cases, you need people who are sound-minded, people who have not been, declared insolvent, or who may not be disqualified by law to take a position of authority or to take position of fiduciary duties. And then the other requirement is, obviously, it has to be in writing. You need definitely a deed of trust, which must be notarized and signed by the trustees, the founder. And then the other item, which is very critical, is you have to identify your beneficiaries very well. You want to avoid to leave a gap. In legal terms, they always say a lacuna. You want it to be very clear who are the beneficiaries. When you die, if your estate is under trust, who is supposed to benefit? I'll give examples where we find problems. Well, it's not a problem, but these might not be the intended approach or the intended beneficiaries by the founder or trustee. In cases where there's a broad description that the beneficiaries shall be the children of the founder or children of the trust. Whereas maybe people want to define the children to be those who are born in wedlock. So if you then make it broader, it means even if the husband or the wife have other children elsewhere, if it's so broad, they are now able to participate because they are children of the trust. So if you define that to say, okay, children born from the trustee or born in wedlock, then you've defined them properly. Then the other requirement, which is also critical, is that you need to also look at the tenure of the trustees and also give them the powers that you intend to give them as a founder. Yeah, you don't want to then have trustees with so much power and accept the intention of the founder. So in general terms, I think those are the requirements for one to have a trust.
Okay, so let's talk about cost. So what you said, so from what I picked up, you need to obviously speak to a legal practitioner who's also a notary, right? So that's an amount that is already there for you. And then for a trust, you said you need to register it at the deeds office. That's also another cost that you would need to incur. And this happens as well. If you gain more assets, you are going to need to then continue to register those things, those costs again. So that, again, you are accumulating costs as you go. So would you then say that trusts are cost effective, especially considering all those things? Wouldn't you then say wills would be better? Because with a will, it's just an issue of making it, and then if you do then have an issue of you have more assets or it needs to be amended, you simply can just amend it. Maybe the only cost you incur is when you try and deposit your will with your lawyer, and that cost cannot be compared with that of always going to register the deeds.
Well, since you said it's a debate, I would debate supporting the trust in this circumstance. Maybe the issues of cost look here, the conversation is about estate planning. And when you look about estate plan, these are things that will happen when you are no longer there. I think let's get that one very clear. Which to say, when you look at costs, let's not look at the current costs. We are looking at the future costs that are going to be incurred by your children or people who are going to benefit from your estate. I think that's where I would really argue in terms of costs. The cost of putting properties into the trust only happens when there are already assets that are in existence, which you now need to transfer to put in the name of the trust. But when you now buy properties, when you already have a trust, the cost is the same. the one cost which you are going to incur putting the trust deed in your personal capacity is the same which you incur to put the asset in the trust. Hey, look here. You've got a house in Borodale, and you do a will. We are looking at a property between $500,000 to $1 million. So if you do a will, the property is in your name. It's in the name of Fungai. So if you want that property to be given to my children, it means they do an estate process. And there's estate duty, and there are conveyancing fees, and there are stamp duties, among other taxes that may be that are payable. But I can say totally you are looking at maybe between 10 to 15% being the value of that asset, which will go towards those costs. It's my encouragement to the listeners that let's do it now when you don't have those many assets of value. So if you do it now, it means you have saved that 100,000 cost, because the property as you buy today is going to be in the name of the trust. But assuming you have not done that, but you have the property, still I'm saying you have the time to work and raise those transfer fees, estate duty, sorry, not estate duty, stamp duty, among other taxes, to allow the process of transfer from Fungai, who is still alive and who is still working, to the trust. So the costs are inherent as far as the establishment, but we need to look at the summation of all costs that are going to be incurred. And those things now being done after the death will be costly to the children or the beneficiaries. Then for me to do it now and I plan it, and I avoid the cost of 100,000 plus, if we are talking about the borrowed house.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we should also then just remind the listeners that the point of this debate today is to sort of give you, the listeners, an opportunity to ascertain what would work for you. Because I'm seeing you're talking about the border house, right? Not everyone will have that sort of issue to worry about, and it might then end up being the cost of making a trust is one that would be more than what maybe would have been taken by the master and all the taxes and duties. So again, it's up to you to then also consider where your estate is and how much you have. Am I getting that part?
You are getting right, Rumbi, but let me interject by adding one thing. Let's talk about, let's remove the aspect of money.
Okay.
Because when I say borrowed house, people start to think about the values.
Okay.
Let's talk about your house in Chungwiza or your house in Grenora, which has got a value of 30,000 plus. When you have got a will, you might then say the will is giving the property to Tawanga. And when you've got a trust, you have housed it in the whole family, which could be the children. So that property cannot be sold out. So you can keep the value of that property for ages. But if you put it in the name of an individual, and that individual is now his property and he can do whatever he wants or deem necessary with that property. So you have cases where we find ourselves or we find our children now in situations where the property was left for one person, but the thinking which maybe the testator was that, this will remain a family property somehow. But that will be eroded by either family laws, by other cases where surviving spouse come in or one person decide to sell. Actually, it's not that a will is read on the death of the person or the next day of burial. In other cases, people have to find out if there is a will. That process, when that process is happening, the family members are already taking everything away. But if it's known that these things are in a family trust, no one will touch them. So apart from the costs, I also think it's more cleaner, there's sanity, and it avoids so many family problems and conflicts when things are housed in a trust.
I understand and I hear you, but I also think those issues that you bring up can be solved and sorted if someone is clear in their will, right? And it's just a matter of taking your time with it. This is your time to shine. You really take your time. You write down all your requirements, everything that you want. So in that case, you specify that, no, this house should stay in the family. It should then be distributed. It should be shared amongst so and so, so and so, so and so. You are at liberty to do that. I trust it may be difficult to then go into those specifics, especially when we're considering maybe things that may not be considered of value, assets of value. Like the blankets and also can you put blankets in a trust? Can you?
If any property can be put in a trust.
Okay.
Of course, ideally, we are saying movables can be housed in a trust. Those that can be registered, yes, you can put in the name of a trust. But again, where I agree with you that if things are done well, we have a cleaner, a clean estate also through a will. So I think I'm slowly persuading you to go for the trust.
Almost, but I still have a few issues of contention.
Okay.
For that one, you may have gotten me.
Okay.
But also, we're looking at privacy as well.
Okay.
I think that process, we may want to believe that everyone has everyone's best interest. I'm not saying anything about the deeds office or even the lawyers, but you can imagine that process, many hands touch your trust deed, right? And if you're someone who, a public figure, that information can easily then become public, right? Where we're now, wow, we're looking at this person's estate. Look, they've registered another one. Now they've put this again. And, that becomes something that you're probably not ready to discuss. And now it inspires people to speculate, to have so many things to say. Whereas a will is a private document. It's just between you and your lawyer, if you even wish to do that. Where obviously that's the recommended direction. So it's just something that's more in-house and it's kept quiet.
I actually differ with you strongly in the sense that I actually think a will is more public.
Okay.
Why? Because when you do a will, you actually identify the assets and you identify the persons to benefit. When you die, the will is now being read out. And if you're a profile person, it may even go spew into the media. And in those papers, there is specific identification of the assets. So there's actually a house in Zengeza, house in Chitungwiza, house in Makone, house in Glendale, house in Borodale, house in Marodale, house. Everything is listed. That's a will. But the different approach, which maybe I need to make it clear to you, is this now. When we now go to a trust, it's not compelled that you put the assets or list them in the trust. You can. But I'm simply saying, what may be a form of ownership of the trust may not be put in the deed of trust, but it will be a title deed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're also looking at, you spoke about how, time constraints and whatnot, how you might forget. But I think the same can be said with wills. It becomes effective immediately. As soon as you have signed it and you have done all the things that are required for a will to be valid. With the trust now, especially with the, regulatory hurdles that you may need to go over, it may take time for your trust to then be registered.
The requirement of a trust, which is an organization, not a family trust, to go through procedures of approval through the minister.
Okay.
But a family trust is not referred to the minister for approvals, and normally it doesn't take more than 7 days. Okay. Yeah. So in terms of time, we agree, and we need to agree. There's no any time that is lost.
Okay.
if you go through the family trust, but I think more importantly, the listeners must understand that in all this, one needs to prepare and plan before everything happens. And when I'm invited to speak to conferences and to speak to workshops, I always tell people that I am saddened by those guys who wear ties and jackets, very formal, very knowledgeable. They do their work. They know their diaries well at offices. They're very, very, very professional in the handling of their day-to-day duties. But when you ask them if they've got a trust or what are they thinking around estate planning, you realize that they found one thing. So my encouragement is that people must know that the office that you are going to, or which you are giving much preference and importance, when you die, the next day someone will be sitting in that office. But your family will be now expecting to see an organized father beyond your life. What have you left for them? How have you done it? Have you been planning? Have you been planning? Have you been strategic to ensure that when you are no longer there, they are not involved in fights? It's said that you see children being chased out of homes, being chased out of their businesses, because the man or the woman who has been working hard was focusing on businesses and not for the after his life family planning processes, which I believe this conversation should assist them.
Yes. So now I think the fight is over. We now want to we want to come to a point of agreeing.
Yes.
So are we saying that anyone and everyone should do trusts over wills?
I would support that. Why? Because the regime of our estate planning is more inclined by having a creature which is less burdensome in terms of tax, and also which can be used beyond your life without so many or without too much logistical problems. So reality should strike us. How people are grabbing assets. I think we need to now to house these things in a trust and move forward as a united community.
Okay, I hope listeners, you have heard both contributions and are considering which one would work for you. But most importantly, I think it's a conversation that should be encouraging you to start thinking, if you hadn't already, to start thinking and to start planning.
So remember not to forget to join in on the conversation, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, the whole thing. And thank you so much for joining us on
Legal.